Hello, welcome back to Unprofessional Therapy, where we don't have degrees, just decades,
That's right.
talking about whatever we want to talk about. I'm Brad.
I am Michael.
How are you today, Michael?
I'm doing better with every sip of coffee that I have here.
Oh, that's good, man. I was thinking what we should talk about today.
What's that?
We should talk about procrastination, but we can talk about that later.
Well,
I know that's a dad joke.
I see what
believe.
you did there. That's okay.
Yeah. You see that? You see that?
All right. So that's
Oh.
one of the topics that we'll talk about. The other topic then is how do you ask for help? And that topic will go kind of deep, and I don't want to say trigger warning, but we're going to talk about some very potentially intense stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll start with
We'll
something.
start it out light.
We'll start a little lighter first. So tell me.
So you trying to
Now,
procrastinate my
tell me
topic?
now. I'm not procrastinating. Tell me now about the.
Tell you now.
Tell me now
So
about
how
it.
this comes about. This is a
Okay.
good one. So it's no secret to the people who know me that it's not okay. I don't like my job, but okay. I like my job. I don't like going to work. Does that make
Gotcha.
sense?
Yes.
I've always been a free spirit type of thing where I like to do my own thing, freelance. And with work, there's a specific little project, not even a big one, that 6 weeks ago I said I'll have it done, in 4 weeks.
Did you wait 3.5
Obviously that
weeks
didn't
to
happen, and I just I was at the point to where the project was all I had to do was test it. That's it. Test it and fix whatever little bugs popped up, which there were going to be bugs. It's just the way it is. And I just procrastinated doing it. I just did not want to do it. And I hated the fact that I had to do it. I don't like people telling me what to do. There's a lot of things wrong with me, but that's another episode.
Because I've got so many questions to ask you that maybe that's not the way you want to go. I'll let you
Well, let
continue.
me finish this, and you can ask whatever you want.
Yeah.
So the way this went is that I kept putting it off, and I kept putting it off, and I kept putting it off, and I mean, I had finally the customer got back to me again. Hey, how you doing on this? And then I called in sick. Well, I was not feeling well for 2 days
because you had to do a project.
I felt bad. It was self-imposed stress. Whose fault was this? This was mine, 100%. Then I finally sat down and I finished this app, and I sent them off the sample results so they could see, and they immediately approved it. How long did it take me to finish this project when I started to finish it? Take a guess.
I'm going to say, knowing you, I'm going to say 6 hours or less.
An hour and a half.
I knew it was going to be less, but I didn't want to build you up too much and let your head grow big.
Yeah.
I was going to say about an hour, but
yeah. And you're right. It's like, why? And this is not the first time I've done that. There's projects I have for myself that I've done that. I'm like, oh, I just need to. In fact, there's one this weekend that I've got to do, and I know it's going to take me 30 minutes. So I've got to do it after we're done recording for our stuff. I'm going to do it.
Right.
So what did you want to ask me about these things?
So my question is why? First of all, why do you have a clear answer?
I wish I had a good answer for you.
Okay, so
it's more of whether it's me trying to control something or not control something, or just I'm lazy, or you tell me why.
I'm going to try to, or I'm going to try to get you to figure out why by asking you some questions like, one, you said you don't like to being told what to do. Okay, well, everybody has to put up with a certain amount of that stuff. Yeah. Okay. Is there any fears that you can think of that you have attached to completing the task?
Well, this one was a task that I accidentally made worse for myself because I misread a couple emails, and that was just me. This is that same project you and I've talked about in the past. I don't know if we were recording or not,
I don't know.
But I just dreaded finishing it because I just knew there was going to be all kinds of problems. I just knew that I just the thing and this is the conundrum, the hard rock and hard place. It needed to be finished because to get it off of my brain. I needed it done, but I
Right.
didn't want to finish it because of the problems it was going to cause that could be really big. By the way, there were some problems, but not that big. You know,
Okay.
as long as I kept calm, because I realized a couple of times I started in the wrong place. Like, why is this? Why is this? And I'm like, oh wait, I'm in the wrong app because there's two apps affected.
Okay.
Uh, and it was, and because I waited a month or 2 weeks or whatever it was, I forgot most of what I was doing, even though I had notes. So I
Okay.
did have notes.
Okay.
It's just,
So, so here's what I think. I'm going to say, unfortunately, because I know you, I've got some very specific thoughts.
yes.
Doing our discussions here and stuff, I want to, in theory, keep things general,
Mhm.
so that anybody, it can be
Yeah.
helpful to anybody or whatever. But
Right.
because I know you, I'm picturing one of your problems as being distracted by other very specific things. You know what I mean? Your dislike. I'm going to say this, not you. I'm going to say your dislike of work.
Mhm.
So I know there are certain blocks that you put up that could do that. And I'm going to say I also recognize some of those blocks because I have them too. I'm not incredibly ambitious and and not really one of those alpha male type people that want to go out
Right.
there and do stuff and whatever. Yeah, I'm happy to set back and do my own thing as much as I possibly can. It's lucky we don't have a peanut gallery here because I'm pretty sure I could hear comments outside there about. But anyhow, so regardless. So I guess my question, though, like I said to you, is: are there any specific fears that you have attached to it? Are there is there any rewards that you feel you get by having added pressure?
No, there's no added rewards. But
Okay.
the things that were, what I'm afraid of is the failure of the app. That's one of the reasons I have problems finishing an app in the first place, is just putting it out there and it fails. But, knowing full well that even if it does, I can fix it.
Okay. Okay.
So it doesn't really, it's a very bad fear.
Okay. I guess I'm
It's
asking
invalid.
too because in some people, sometimes you, me, I again, I try not to project anything onto you
Mhm.
specifically or whatever. So often I find that I have built a system. I've built a habit, bad habit of procrastinating until the very end, then doing it well, doing it correctly, and then like, well, that becomes the pattern. So like,
Yeah.
well, it worked out okay last time, so one of these times it's going to crash. In the back of my mind, there's that like, this is going to blow up in my face one of these times, but it's worked so many other times, so why wouldn't
Definitely
I?
not the right way to go.
No, that is
That's
not the bad. That is not the habits you want to.
especially, I mean, when you're doing things for yourself, okay, that you will do whatever, but when you're doing something for your boss or
Yeah,
your customer or, the public in general, for to go out there, it's a
yeah,
less, better way of doing things. It's better to just, be very methodical in getting things
yeah.
done and not waiting till the end.
What
And I know.
what can you do? What can you do to not do
I
that? So my
just
suggestion.
sit down and get the damn thing done. I mean, that's what I tell myself. Just
So
shut up and do it.
I this is something that I have had down to talk about in the future, but we'll I'm sure we'll come back around to this topic. But
Hmm.
work within yourself and what you do. Um, and if you have to make changes, make small incremental changes. That's the best way I think to attack it and stuff. I've heard it said before, it's like eating an elephant. You have to do it in small bites.
One bite at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think to do the change to make that to do a little less procrastinating, maybe set up a time to do stuff. Even if it's like, well, I'm going to work on this for an hour and then move on to something else. That's something else I've had to change in my work habit, is to work on multiple projects at a time, which isn't necessarily good or efficient way, but it's
Hmm.
where my brain's at. And it's so I can devote a lot of information, a lot of brain power to this for a short period of time, then move on to something else, and maybe be inspired to go back to the other thing and finish that project or work further on the project.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of that would work. I can't. I'm not good at multitasking, but I do have two projects going on right now. That's are my projects. One's more of a long term, and one's just a short one. So, and that's fine. And when you're talking about work on something for an hour, that is a valid thing that I've seen. I've actually heard people say, just give it 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes,
Yeah.
because what happens is that 5 or 10 minutes turns into 2 hours,
Right.
focus
Right.
time. Because once you start rolling, you're going.
Yeah.
You're doing really good. Um, my problems that I've had with this specific procrastination is that there's one project I'm working on my own that I have to wait, after hours of work, because I can't do it during work because
Sure.
that's just wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and but it's in my head all day long, and it's
Right.
this project itself has the potential to allowing me to leave my job. It's a potential. It's
That
a good
sounds even
potential.
more intriguing.
That's why it's very difficult. It's very easy for me to procrastinate, and my brain is like, well, this is just going to work. It's like, but you have to pull. I've been there and done that where, oh, it's just going to work, and then it doesn't.
Mm,
So I have to pull myself back, going, you have to be very methodical. You can't just lose your job while you're living where you live in the situation that you're in, because you can't get a job here. Now, there are things I can do, so that's not really a big deal. But the market for my skills, is just as a programmer, is very difficult. Now, the way I use AI, I'm definitely valuable to the right people. Finding them is hard.
I was going to say getting in front of those people, because we've
Yeah,
touched on this before when we talked about, like, you're not here, you're not U.S. based right now, so
right.
yeah, that does
and
make
and I hate social media, and I despise it with a passion. This is the most social media I'm doing right now.
well. I'm glad to
So,
pull you out of your shell.
oh yeah, I mean, and this is not the first time I've been on YouTube.
I,
This
w-
is not my first channel. I've
I
got
wasn't sure
multiples.
how much I wasn't sure
Yeah.
how much you wanted to talk about that, but hey, I'm going to tell you, I am a fan of certain other travel things that you've done in the past. So yeah,
They were fun. Those were fun videos. I would like to. It turned into stuff that it wasn't a labor of love anymore. It was a
mm,
labor.
ah,
And that's when I lose interest. But it was good for 5 or 6 years.
I'm
I enjoyed it.
I've got notes in here like, what do we do about drift? But
Yeah.
that'll be another topic for another time.
Yeah, and that's a topic that we have, is that we have a lot of topics that make us were problems. We have a lot of problems. Well, that'll be a fun one.
Hopefully they're not
Speaking,
problems. Hopefully we'll entertain and educate and maybe help
yeah,
each other
yeah,
and other people along the way. It won't be
yeah.
it'll be yeah. That's what we're hoping for.
I, I do. We're gonna get on. We talk about different topics. We talk about. I mean, we've touched on topics that are taboo. We're gonna touch on a topic here in a second
Yeah, we're
that
gonna do
is.
that.
This is a deep one. It really is. And if you're uncomfortable watching the video when we start this topic, have a great day. All right.
Yes. Come back and see
It,
us again.
yeah, exactly. And if you feel that a topic is talking to you, you get help. All
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
we're not, again, we're no degrees. We're not real. We're not real therapists. We are unprofessional. So
That is
we're just
right.
talking about our experiences, hoping that they ring or don't ring with you. And this one hopefully doesn't,
Doesn't.
but
Well,
maybe somebody.
there's
Um,
a lot to this
mhm.
one. So here's what it is.
Go for it.
how do you ask for help? This stood out to me because I recently watched the documentary Skyking. And for those of you, you may remember this. This was something that was in the news some time ago. A gentleman stole an airliner from the SeaTac airport, took off and went flying with it. He said he had played some games and been some simulators before, and so jumped on the jet and just took off and started flying around. In many ways, like so many things, it was an intensely interesting topic while it was happening. It's then dropped off. Oh, I was going to say dropped off the radar. That might not be appropriate. What I mean to say is we are no longer thinking about it. It went away. It was a topic. So when I saw this documentary, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. What really happened? I heard the guy did this, but didn't give it much thought. This was a good documentary for me and our family to watch. But what stood out during that was I never gave much thought to it, be it whether how intentional it was, because with the way the media presented it initially, he said something about playing video games or whatever, and that he had done this. So it seemed like it was kind of maybe for fun. And the rest of the documentary actually goes on to talk about, whether this was intentional or not. And you're kind of waiting to hear that as this thing goes on. And he was, well, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody because part of the drama actually is watching it. And I'm not saying drama in the sense of entertainment. Anyhow, but let me get to the point. Point was, he talked often about having lots of people that loved him and cared about him, but he didn't, but it was business. That phrase, for whatever reason, stuck out in my head, hearing him say that multiple times. And I just started thinking, how do you ask somebody for help? What does that conversation look like? How do you even go about it? For me, I'm lucky that I've had a good support system and people that I always felt like I could talk to. But how do you ask for somebody for help? And maybe you don't even know how bad the situation is, but like, how do you talk to somebody? How do you open dialogue? Do you have any suggestions? Yeah. I'm slamming you on the spot here, so like,
not quite on the spot. I understood, but this is a tough one. I mean, when you are spiraling down, because I've been there more than I care to remember. It is not the easiest thing to deal with. I mean, I've pulled myself out of a spiral a couple times, at max 2 times, and out of many. Some people who care enough about me said the right things at the right time to help me, but I never asked for help. I don't know if I've ever flat out asked for help. Now, today, I can't, because I have people like you. I have people I have a good support group and a support system. If you don't have a good support system, you got to call somebody, and there's phone numbers for that. We should probably find those phone numbers and put those on there in the links. Sure. Because if you don't have anybody to talk to, you need somebody to talk to. You need to reach out for help. You need to, because it again, spiraling in that loop is a horrible thing. I have been there I've been deep, and I don't know if I was talking to you at the time that much, but I've had people pull me out, and because they realized it. And again, that's having a good support system. If you don't have that, you have to dig deep into yourself and say, you need to realize it yourself, that you need help. You have to say, wow, I'm in a really bad place right now. I need to talk to somebody, and go find somebody to talk to.
Right. I think my initial idea or thought with this was about asking for friends. Now, I talked to, it's a little bit of a cheat, not a cheat on my part, because none of this is supposed to be anything. But I talked to somebody else about this because it did affect me so deeply. So I spoke with my wife about this. And her advice, the things she pointed out to me was it's almost better to talk to somebody you don't know to get this conversation started. And she said, you should go to somebody whose job this is. You and I talk about the fact that we're unprofessional. You need a professional in this situation. So whether that be a phone number to call, there are lines to help there. If you have or can find a therapist, I know money can often be a sore subject or a source of problems for people,
especially today.
A lot of times that's so true. But for me, I'm thinking about the emotional aspect of it and how you would even formulate the question, how you would even say something. Sounds like you've been really lucky that you've got somebody that was empathetic enough to maybe see the problems. I'm going to say for anybody watching, maybe be that person, maybe open yourself up. And if you feel anything is off in any way, maybe offer. And we talked about this a little bit before about like, you don't want to dump your problems on somebody else or they don't want to dump their problems on you. But yeah, listen with an open ear.
I think that, and if you're going to be that person to help, don't say, "Hey, are you all right?" And then they say, "Yeah," and then you walk away. No. You have to say, you got to look them in the eyes, and if you think, and see what they're seeing. If you see that they're hurting, or you can tell that something's definitely wrong, just say, "Look, I don't know what's going on, but something doesn't seem right. And if there's anything I can do, if you just need an ear, let them talk."
Sure.
And if they're talking about stuff that's like really, really, really bad and really it scares you about them, that they might hurt themselves, tell them they need to get real help, and tell them and help them get that help. Give them the numbers. There's free numbers. There's 800 numbers. There's people you can talk to, and do what you can to help them.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I had an episode, and I ended up calling my mom. And we talked it, and she knew that I was calling at 11 o'clock at night. She answers the call.
Yeah.
Of course, she didn't know it was me, but that's before caller ID.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was lucky to have the support group. So try to be that support group if somebody doesn't have it.
And I'm going to say, as the person listening in that position, trust your gut. Don't listen to what they're saying. Listen to the silences and the spaces in between there. This kind of ties into everything that we've talked about. Like I said, if you go all the way back to my misunderstanding of the Rorschach test, I got in the habit, I trained myself to listen. Don't listen to what people are saying. Listen to what they're not saying. Maybe you can be that when you're that. If you're on the other side of it and you need that help, and I think that is another way if you have a support system. And this was something that was it was heartbreaking for me to hear this, because the Skyking documentary literally was the air traffic controller and him talking.
Wow.
And it was his family members listening to it, in some cases for the first time, literally listening to the chatter between the two. And wow, it was really powerful.
That had to be painful.
And
I don't think I'm watching that one, but okay. You watch some dark stuff, dude.
I do, but you know what? I feel like that prepares me for other things, but that goes into my own psychological things there, my own. But it's important to have balance for sure. That's why I'm so goofy and silly about so many other things. But yeah, so this, and we watched it as a family, my sister-in-law and her daughter, and we didn't sit down to do that. It was just
Just happened.
It just kind of happened. We picked it. We thought this was something that would be interesting or good. But I didn't want it to glamorize anything either. And so that's and again, it was one of those things where I just thought it's like, I was intensely interested in it while it was happening, and then after it's not happening, we've moved on to something else. What's the next shiny thing? But this was left, and I was happy that I watched it in the end because it gave us this topic to talk about, but it gave me something to think about and to maybe help me be more empathetic in the future for people that get to the listening for. I don't know.
I'm going to say this one last piece of advice, and it's kind of a joke, but not. If you feel that you want to do bad things, take the advice of the beginning of the episode and just procrastinate that one until forever. All right.
That's right. Put it off.
There's better. See, that's the thing. And that, there's better things in life. I mean, you're spiraling down. You're only seeing the negative, but you need to find the positive because life is worth it. Life really is.
And I think
I found that out.
I think the fact is that I've heard this and stuff, playing chess and stuff like too. The fact that, and I'm horrible at chess, that's another story. But as long as you're alive, there's moves to make, and you can always improve your position. You can always change things for the better. You can always turn it around. As many games as I've lost in chess, it doesn't seem like that's the case, but I understand this. I understand the sentiment behind it, that, you know what I mean? As long as there's life, there's hope. As long as you've got somebody to talk to, you can make positive things, and things can get better. It's temporary. Everything is temporary.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say you came up with a very good topic. You can change it. And yes. I think we need to talk about that in the very next video.
Okay.
Because I have many stories, and I do.
All right, that sounds good. And it sounds like we're at that time where it's we're going to say no degrees, just decades. Thank you so much for listening. Covered some topics, and some that we'll get back to eventually. But in the meantime, I've been Michael.
I've been Brad.
And we have been Unprofessional Therapy. Thank you very much for listening. If you know of anybody that could maybe benefit from hearing two old guys rambling on about everything, please share the video. That would be greatly appreciated.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much.